Hello tacticians, it's Nox here, and today we've got a bit of an unexpected update regarding the summoner meta. They have told us they are reworking the summoner meta in the 1.6 update next week for multiple reasons. A big one being the way that summoners interact, with new mechanics, plural, and new characters such as Shi, which we discussed in my last video. We will get 1,000 guild credits as well. And in the 1.7 update, we'll be introducing a refund consumable so you can choose to reset a character and get back invested resources. Now, I'm going to guess that this refund will only be for the affected characters we see here, but who knows? So, are you in for a long journey? Because this is a big one. Why balance changes in general? Tacticus is a living game, always evolving. We want Tacticus to be a game where multiple metas are competitive, which at the moment it's not. We do see in both live PvP and the PvP tournament, these three characters are everywhere. It doesn't matter who else you're using, you will include one, two, or sometimes even all three of these characters. With different playstyles and factions being viable, and every character has a good niche to occupy. We definitely do not want a situation where our players feel like only armies with a small subset of characters are viable, or that only one type of gameplay is effective, in other words, summoning. We always want to develop characters that reward strategic and well-timed deployment, not first turn, fire and forget, Yarek and Archimatos. All of our balance changes are with these viability goals in mind. Sometimes the right answer is a boost to power or some other stat, but only doing boosts is a dangerous path to tread. Look at inflation in the real world. That does real harm to economies. So, in addition to boosts, we have changes and, nerfs in our toolbox. The word nerf is always used in such a derogatory manner. It's like it's always a bad thing. And to be honest, nerfs aren't always bad. Sometimes they're actually really healthy for the game. And we're going to keep that in mind as we read through. Why now? As the game evolves, we add new abilities and strategic elements. Old metas need adjusting, and as many of you know, a new character is joining our lineup, and Shi's superpower is as much as doubling another character's impact. With this exciting mechanic entering Tacticus, we absolutely must do a little bit of a retcon to make sure we don't break the game. Why the summoners specifically? We've seen the memes. Weirdly, I haven't. And more importantly, we've seen the data. Again, I haven't seen that either, although I would like to. These characters are turning into solutions for all the challenges in the game, regardless of the game mode. That's true. And it is not healthy for the long-term future of the game. Again, we want Tacticus to be a game where multiple metas are competitive. And here's what we're doing with our summoner meta characters to try and keep them fun without being overly dominant in all scenarios. The first thing they've done affects all summoned units with ranged attacks. These units will now prefer their ranged attack over going into melee on high ground more consistently. So this means they'll be less likely to take those points when they're next to a guild boss in those guild boss fights. Then we move on to Aleph Null. There's been a change. The Scarab Swarms now have the flying trait, which is a bonus for them. They will now be able to skip over things which are often in the way, or over barbed wire, which often tied them up. However, their damage is now changing to energy and not piercing, so that's going to be a 30% pierce rather than 80%. There's now a change to Aleph's Null active ability, which is now, it summons 2 Scarab Swarms next to the target, whom they attack immediately, using the damage type piercing. However, in any subsequent attack, they use the energy. So that initial hit will still use piercing, so you'll still do the same damage you used to. It's just when the swarms are on their own, they do drop down to the lesser damage type. There's been an improvement to Aleph Null's repair mechanic, where Aleph Null's passive, the Fabricator Clause, can now resurrect swarm members that have been destroyed. Beforehand, you could not do that. If you had one Scarab Swarm left, you'd be left with one. You couldn't bring them back. This indicates it can bring back a number. However, it doesn't say how many. We then have some notes from the design team, but in order to keep this short, I will skip them. But if you are interested, I do encourage you to go and read this. Secondly, we have the change to Yarek. His active ability now summons 2 Cadian Guardsmen, plus 1 for each unit, character or other summon you've lost during this battle, who immediately fire upon a target in range of Yarek from random free hexes within range. There has been a number of improvements to Yarek too. The maximum number of Cadian Guardsmen that can be summoned, which used to be 4, is now 5 if you have an ability level of 36. Of course, this is still very dependent on how many units have died previously in the battle. So yes, it is an improvement, but it's only going to be used in certain circumstances. I imagine most of the time you'll still only get 3 or 4, but in those circumstances where you do get 5, it is actually quite a big boost. Also, they've increased Commissar Yarrick's health by 25%. Again, this is nice. He's already got the Resilient to make it sure that he's not one hit as easily, and with that extra percentage of health, he's going to be a tough cookie to take down. Finally, they mentioned the improvement we talked about above, where they made a change specifically to make the guardsmen smarter and more useful about where they move rather than just immediately going onto high ground and doing melee. Finally, the changes to Archimatos. His bloodletters now do minus 29% damage compared to what they did before. However, their improvement, Unstoppable Ferocity, will now do 1 additional hit against Psykers. So he will now be better versus Psykers than he was before, but slightly worse against everyone else. So what this means is he's actually going to be even more needed in the Tyrannid Guild Raid bosses, but when you use him in the live PvP, he may not be as good as we're used to. They then continue with a not so subtle hit with the word still reading as a very minor reward you can reclaim. They have been playtesting these changes internally, and while we would never claim to get it right on the first try, which is why we're considering some additional adjustments for the patch after this one, this is what we want to take live next week, along with 1,000 guild credits for you to spend on making changes to your strategy if you need to. Veteran players know we will be looking at feedback closely, and I do believe them here. They do listen to the community, they do make changes. They may not be the changes that everyone has wanted, but quite often they're the ones that we need. Speaking of feedback, these changes are coming in 1.6, which they did say is coming next week, but something that will be coming in 1.7 is a special reset stone. We still have to name it officially. They then carry on saying, we'll bring you more details when we know them, and our ambassadors, whose range of extremely strong opinions have been very helpful to us already and will continue to be as the impact of these changes are seen in the live game, are also helping us with the feedback gathering. So if you've asked your opinion, please don't hesitate to share it, and by all means share it with me too. I am an official content creator for them, and so whatever you tell me, I will go to them and let them know. Overall, I think all these changes are a big step in the right direction. The summoners have been ruling the meta for quite some time, and there may well be people out there saying, well, it's not just the summoners, what about Calendis or Eldrian or whoever? Bear in mind they want to make one change at a time to see what effect it has. The other changes will be coming. We're more than likely going to see an adjustment to Calendis and Eldrian. Hopefully we'll see another adjustment to Darkstrider. There are certainly characters who need love, and some who probably need a little bit of tweaking to make them more fair. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and please like and also subscribe, it really does help me out. And I'll be seeing you on the battlefield.